Hello, and thank you for joining in today's cooking segment during the American Kidney Fund's Kidney Action Week. Kidney Action Week is our initiative to help provide kidney education for disease prevention and management. We would like to really thank US Renal for sponsoring this event. My name is Carolyn. I am a kidney transplant dietitian, and I have been volunteering with the American Kidney Fund for more years than I can count. It's very close and near and dear to my heart, so please join me in today for our recipe, which is going to be a no-bake pumpkin cheesecake. Exciting. All right, just in time for the holidays. Alrighty, I have now put my hair up. I finished washing my hands, so let's get ready to go on this pumpkin spice no-bake cheesecake. I'm really excited. Let's get going. This recipe is actually fairly easy to make. You don't even need an oven or a stove or anything to do this. What we're gonna do first is get our mise en place, or everything in its place. It's very important before you start cooking to, number one, read your recipe, so that way you know you have all the ingredients, you know you have all of the steps and all of that. And you wanna get everything there together, so that way it makes the cooking process so much easier, not running here or running there to get what you need. Everything is right there in its place. So you measure out all your ingredients first, and then you start the cooking process. It might seem a little bit counterintuitive, or like, oh, I just want to get right in there and start doing it. But honestly, have you ever been at the stove and you've been making something and you're just like, oh wait, shoot, I forgot to chop that garlic, or shoot, I forgot to do this. And then now your dinner's burning or something like that. Doing your mise en place, which means everything in its place, makes it so much easier. So I'm going to show you my cutting board and everything that we've got going on. All right. Every single thing that I need for this recipe. And now we're just going to start building our mise en place with the ingredients. So it calls for 8 ounces of low-fat cream cheese. So I've got my cream cheese, and voila, here it is. It calls for a 1/2 cup of fresh or canned pumpkin. So I've got a can of pumpkin. I've got my measuring cup. I've got my can opener. It calls for a teaspoon. So I've got my measuring spoons of vanilla. It calls for a teaspoon of cinnamon, and it calls for a teaspoon of pumpkin spice, pumpkin pie spice. It calls for a 1/4 cup of brown sugar unpacked. It calls for 4 ounces of a whipped topping. This recipe calls for what is called True Whip. It is a no high fructose corn syrup, no trans fats, no preservatives, all that good kind of stuff. You find it in the freezer section. And then it's always important to read the ingredients. So here I'm looking for phosphorus additives, anything that says phos in it, right? So no, great. And I'm also gonna look, and this does not have the amount of potassium on here, but it says, oh, it does, 0 milligrams. So it definitely doesn't have any like phosphorus on here, but it does only have 3 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of fats, and only 30 calories. Now, granted, that's for 2 tablespoons. We're going to use about half of this container, but that's going to be okay because we're not going to eat the whole thing. So as I read through my recipe, I knew that I needed 8 ounces of cream cheese that needed to be softened. I needed a 1/2 cup of fresh or canned pumpkin puree drained. So I've got my strainer ready for that. I also need, like I said, this whipped topping to be thawed. So I've gotten all of that ready. I'm now gonna measure my 1/2 cup of pumpkin. Well, if you just strained your pumpkin through a strainer like this, it's gonna go all the way through and it's not gonna work. But presto, in comes your coffee filter, and now you're good. So here we go, half a cup, 4 ounces. And the reason you want to make sure that you're doing this to the 4 ounce part and not any more is because pumpkin is a higher in potassium food. So this is how we're able to make this kidney friendly, is by making sure that we have the right amount. So if you look, I'm actually a little bit above 4 ounces. So I'm just going to take a little scoop out, because when it comes to potassium, every scoop matters. So I'm going to put this in to drain. And luckily pumpkin is a big flavor, so you're not going to miss that, right? It's going to really stand up to it. So, but we're going to sit this over while we get everything else ready. And so that way it can, while we build the rest of our recipe, it'll be draining. All right, so, and you can tell it's already, there's already juice coming out of it. So that's great. I'm going to set this out of our sight. We're going to actually want to measure. Now, if you don't have a food scale, that's okay. I'm going to show you how much in volume. So these measuring cups, right? They're measuring volume. They're great for liquid. Food scales are great for measuring weight. In this recipe, it calls for 4 ounces of thawed True Whip, like frozen whipped topping, but it's thawed. So I'm going to turn on my food scale. 4 ounces is a half a cup, but that's a half a cup of volume, not a half a cup of in weight. So this cup right here, my measuring cup, weighs 1 pound and some ounces. I'm just gonna zero that out. Voila. And now I'm gonna open up my whipped topping and scoop it out. I'm gonna use a spatula because that'll make it nice and easy for me. So here we go. See, and it's nice and thawed. Comes out really easily. Yeah, you can see the scale. That's not even an ounce, right? And that's almost a half a cup. So we're gonna scoop it again. See, I'm taking some big scoops, right? These are 9-ounce tubs. So it'll probably be about half of the tub. Let's see, that is still, that's 3.38 ounces. So we're close to 4 ounces. Almost. Just kind of wipe this off. All right, 4 ounces even. So I'm gonna push this down so that way we can see probably about how much, oops, look, I lost a little bit. This whipped topping is delicious, so we're gonna put another dab in there. Yeah, now it says 4 ounces. Okay, I'm gonna push this down to see volume-wise how much 4 ounces of whipped topping is on average. So 4 ounces is about, if you can see that, you really probably can't because there's so much, but it's about a cup. So 4 ounces of this whipped topping actually equals 1 cup in volume. All right, so we're gonna build the rest of our pie, no-bake cheesecake actually, over in the bowl, because we don't need to get anything else into and mix it up or whatnot. So we're just gonna dump it all in there. Once this gets drained, it's getting pretty close to being drained, so that's great. All right, I'll see you over by the mixer. All right, so we've now set up my mise en place over by our stand mixer. Actually, the recipe calls for you to use a hand mixer, or you could even use a spatula. My arm strength is not that great. I'm not used to whipping up cream cheese by hand. So I'm going to use my stand mixer because I do not have a handheld mixer. But a handheld mixer, a stand mixer, or even, you know, that old cooking method of using that elbow grease will totally work. I'm going to read my instructions first. I'm going to read them out loud to you. It says, in a large bowl, whip cream cheese, pumpkin, vanilla, cinnamon, pumpkin pie spice, and brown sugar for a few minutes until fluffy. And it says you may use a hand mixer or a spatula. Okay, great. So I know that I have all of the ingredients that I need, and they're all ready. You can even tell that this pumpkin pie, or the pumpkins already is released a lot of the juice already, so that's great. Also, you can think about this as it's getting rid of some of that potassium as well. So let us begin. I'm gonna open up my cream cheese. This KitchenAid mixer holds a really special place in my heart. When I was out of college, living on my own for the very first time, no roommates, no nothing, I was really into watching cooking shows, and I was like, I need a KitchenAid stand mixer. My mom didn't really believe me, and she was like, oh, Carolyn, you don't really want that. You're never going to use it, X, Y, and Z. My dad finally got me one for Christmas one year, and he's like, you've been talking about this for years, so I'm going to get you a KitchenAid mixer. All right, let's see now. Oh, yep. So a cinnamon, it calls for a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I'm going to get my cinnamon. Obviously, I really like cinnamon. I put it in my coffee every morning because I like the way it tastes. I like the way it smells. It just kind of reminds me of comfort. So a teaspoon. And these are probably, that's pretty close. It's not too high. I'll do a little bit of tapping, but I like cinnamon. So in you go. Move that out of the way. I think it's important also to, one, clean as you go, and also two, move things out of the way as you're done using them, right? So now it calls for a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. Again, this might actually be good in your coffee. Kind of like a pumpkin, what is that? During the fall, the pumpkin spice lattes, I bet you that's what they use to make those. I did make a little bit of a mess, but you know, it's on my cutting board. I can wipe that up easily. And then it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. This is pure vanilla. You don't need to use pure vanilla. Vanilla is expensive, but like imitation vanilla or Mexican vanilla is all very good. So a tablespoon. This you don't, or a teaspoon. You don't really want to go over on vanilla because it is a strong flavor and it can, you know, kind of change the taste or taste bitter if you have too much of it in there. And then our 1/4 cup of brown sugar. See, and you know what? You don't even have to have a large kitchen to do any cooking. I don't have a large kitchen by any means. I live in Washington, D.C., and it's tiny, tiny, tiny. It's not as small as things in New York City, but it's pretty small. So this calls for a 1/4 cup of unpacked. So I'm not going to push this down. It doesn't tell me if it should be dark brown or dark brown sugar or light brown sugar. I had light brown sugar, so that's what I used. Another thing about brown sugar is sometimes it gets really, really hard to use, and some people have invested in one of those like brown sugar stones. I have never done that. A little pro tip here, you can pop it in the microwave. You need to take it out of the packaging because you never know if there's any metal in your packaging or not. But you can just put it in your microwave and it'll soften it up, like 10 seconds, nothing long, and then it'll be easy to use. All right, so when you pack brown sugar, you would push it down and then you fill it more up and then you push it down. But this is unpacked brown sugar. So that's all you do. 1/4 cup, in you go. And then it calls for the pumpkin. Right, so look at all that is drained out. That's great. And now we are just going to use our spatula. Take the coffee filter. Coffee filters are great, man. They do so much. And then we're just gonna roll that in. We don't even really need to scrape very much off. So wonderful. And there we have it. The only thing left to add, and we're gonna be adding that towards the very end, is that whipped topping. But again, with the mise en place, you want to have it ready so that way when it's needed, you don't need to mess with it anymore. I'm going to get this cutting board out of my way because I no longer need it. And I'm going to move my mixer so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to insert. Maybe I can, and we're just going to turn it on. It's going to be loud, okay? But now it's just mixing. I'm going to move the camera a little bit. And you want to start slow. And you see how it's really dark brown and it doesn't look anything like what you might think a pumpkin cheesecake or a pumpkin pie might look like. But it'll lighten up in color when it gets fluffy, like the recipe says. We're going to turn it up some more. And again, remember, you can do this all by hand. You can whip it with your hand, or you can go and use a handheld mixer. You do not need a stand mixer for this. All right, we're getting to a point where it's getting a little bit lighter in color. I think you can probably see that, but some of these things are getting stuck to the edges. So I'm gonna turn off my mixer, and then I'm gonna scrape down, I'm gonna actually put it down. I'm gonna scrape down the sides of my bowl so I can get all that goodness in there, right? You didn't spend all this time making everything to leave all the tasty bits on the side of the bowl. I'm even going to kind of scrape down my paddle. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, we're going to be whipping it some more. I mean, it's only been like 30 seconds and it's already made such a dramatic change in color. Alright, so I'm going to scrape, you know, and I'd rather just not use more utensils than necessary. So I'm just going to use my measuring spoon to scrape down my spatula. All right, let's get going. And you always want to start it on low and then slowly turn up the speed. All right, let's get it going. All right, that looks great. It's that color of pumpkin pie. You can see the little spice flecks in there. You don't see any chunks of cream cheese anymore. You do see this one on the side because I didn't get that in there. Oh well. And now I'm just gonna again push this down. And this is why that mise en place is so important, because I was just standing here watching this. It didn't take very long. But now it's time to add in the whipped topping, and I don't have to worry about, oh no, my whipped topping's not thawed, or dang it, now I got to go and measure it and it's going to get warm or whatnot. Nope. This is all great. And in fact, I'm even going to take this off. I don't do a lot of baking, so, I don't use this all that often. Maybe my mom was right, but I have it. I love it. I will never get rid of it. But I'm going to use a different utensil that comes with this to help make this as light as possible. And let's say you're doing this at home. Obviously you are, because I'm at my house. This is for a home cooking show video for Kidney Action Week by the American Kidney Fund. But you can now just whip by a spatula in this whip topping, or you could use this. This is going to give you nice more air into there. We're going to use this for a little bit of the mixing, but not all of it. So I'm just going to take this out. And another thing is you get to taste. You can taste as you go because there aren't any raw eggs in here. So that's nice. You know, so a little taste here and a little taste there isn't going to do much to you. You know, like you can, especially if it's just for you, you can just, you know, delicious. All right. Again, I'm going to scrape this down because I want all that goodness. All those tasty bits. Might have been easier had I put everything in first before I put in that whisk attachment. But, you know, you live and you learn. I always say, like, if you can read, you can cook. And it's okay if you mess up or you don't like it because there's always takeout. So why not try something new? And now we're just going to slowly incorporate this. You can see it's getting a little bit darker in color. I'm going to turn up the speed. You never want to scrape down the side of your bowl. I don't know if I told you this already. While the mixer is going, or while you're using your hand mixer, that is just an easy way to have an accident. Pop this up. Get a lot of air in there to make it nice and whippy. All right. I'm going to kind of turn this on to get some of that stuff out. You would do this with your handheld batter, just kind of a little bit above the bowl. And hopefully it sticks into the bowl and it doesn't fling all around. See, it flew into the bowl. That's great. There's a lot of pie filling in there that I would not have had if I didn't do that. Now we're just going to take this attachment out. See? Hardly anything on here. And now, but as you can tell, it is not, it's not ready yet. We're going to whip the rest of it by hand. All right. Another great thing about a handheld mixer is, well, at least mine, I have a handle. So that makes it really easy. So if you don't have a handheld mixer, but you have a bowl with a handle, that'll make it really nice and easy. Because look, now I'm just gonna whip this in. It's nice and light, way different than it would have been if I would have started whipping it in by my hand, starting with that cream cheese. No way I could have done that. And wow, look at that. It looks so darn delish. I'm going to scrape those sides of that bowl. We're just going to whip, 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 whip. And it's ready, man. Now we're going to pour it into our, I want to scrape down the sides, but we're just going to pour it into our pre-made, store-bought pre-made graham cracker crust. I mean, you could make a graham cracker crust, but it won't be low calorie. It'll be hard to do. It won't be as good. I mean, mine never are, so, and they're really high in butter. So here we go. I mean, now we're just gonna whip it on into our crust. All right, so I've got my pre-made, ready to go graham cracker crust. You know, again, I always like to make sure that I'm reading the ingredients to make sure there's really no unnecessarily added phosphorus additives. Now, when you are buying baked goods, you're going to be looking, it's going to say like leavening. So like if there is any type of baking powder, it's going to have added phosphorus in that because baking powder has added phosphorus. So what you're going to want to look for is to make sure that it doesn't have any extra added phosphorus besides the baking powder or the leavening agent. So now we're just going to pour this on in. It's going to take an hour or so for it to set, which gives you plenty of time to clean your kitchen, get all ready, whatnot. This is a great thing for Thanksgiving. You just kind of want to make sure that this looks nice, right? I mean, you didn't spend all this time making this to have it not look nice. You know, we eat with our eyes as well as our mouths. You know, if something doesn't look good, they've done research on this. If something doesn't look good, people are less apt to eat it. Or even if they do eat it, they don't think it tastes as good as if something that looked really pretty. And you want to scrape these utensils off because there's all of this batter on there. So you don't want to miss out on that. And you want to scrape down your bowl even more now that you got most of it out. You want to give it one more like good go through, kind of start at the bottom and bring that up. You know, I never want to leave anything in the bowl, so there's that. I mean, inevitably you will. But I say that's a pretty good job. Now I'm going to, again, scrape this off. And then we're going to smooth it on in. Just a 9-inch pre-made graham cracker crust. You know, if you wanted to, you could even maybe bake it a little bit beforehand to kind of give it that, you don't need to, but maybe to give it kind of like that, I don't know, some people like a cooked taste. It's from, like, sugars will caramelize and heat. It's called the Maillard reaction. So I'm just trying to make this look as nice and as pretty as possible because, again, you want it to look nice. Some people like designs in it. You could go in a circle. Just kind of keep on going, and once you got it nice and smooth, right? Just kind of continuously turn your plate. That's why people have cake stands, right? And they just turn and turn. And it's going to give us a nice circular pattern. And you can even turn it into a little, like, dollop. Right? Voila. And like I said, we can taste it because there's no eggs in here, so it's not like there's any potential foodborne illness. So let's see. Even though it's not cooked or set yet, I bet you it's gonna taste delicious. This is so easy and so good. Well, I can't wait until it gets nice and cold and set in the refrigerator for about an hour. All right, see you in an hour. It's been actually more than an hour. I went back and reread my recipe because reading your recipe is super important. And it says, make it chill or let it chill for a few hours. I actually went and tested it an hour later and it still wasn't set. I could leave a fingerprint in it, but now if I touch it, my finger doesn't dip in. It is all great. So now we're just gonna serve it up. I'm excited. Cutting a pie is always really difficult, or anything circular that is in a tin. This is more pie shaped. I'm going to just kind of run a knife around this. Oh, wow. It's really easy. Hopefully I didn't go into the crust. And this should make it a lot easier for me to cut my slice of pie or cheesecake. And it makes 10 servings, right? So first you might even want to just kind of score it, you know, in half. So there's 2, 4, so, you know, I think this is only going to give us 8. Which the recipe is for 10. So all of the phosphorus and potassium is for 10, but let's count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So, I did a poor job with that. But oh well. I'm going to cut into it because I just can't wait anymore, right? I'm just gonna, and you don't need any big fancy knife because this is just a graham cracker crust. Getting the first piece of anything out of like a pie shaped dish is always difficult. I bet you we could have taken this out of the container. You know what? I'm going to go for this smaller piece because that'll be more along the lines of a tin piece. Like more along the lines of a serving. So hopefully I did a good job cutting. I've got my plate handy. Again, another mise en place things, right? I mean, like that's the theme of all of my cooking is read the label and know what you're cooking and be prepared. Oh my goodness. I think this came out just perfectly. I don't think it'll ever happen again. Luckily, that was my first try. I mean, look at this. This is delicious. Oops. It is just perfect. Another thing, I mean, after tasting the batter, who knows what it's going to taste like now. I'm sure it's going to taste delicious because I just tasted the batter. It's not like we did anything different to it, but just got it cold and set it. No one even needs to know that this is a like low potassium, low phosphorus, anything, right? This is just delicious. So, and I'm going to take, now I put this back in the freezer, so it's a little bit more on the frozen side, but one little dollop, it's probably 2 tablespoons. So that is like that 30 calories right there. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait. Oh, now the moment of truth. Woohoo! That graham cracker crust sounds great. Okay, here we go. It is so good. I mean, this is not just a Thanksgiving and Christmas type of dish. This is a super easy, your kids can do it. So tasty. Dessert. You could do this in the morning. Your kids can do it. There's no knives involved. I mean, you can even pick it up and eat it. Oh my God. So good. Okay, I gotta stop eating this. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this and listening to my crazy stories. I so enjoyed making this for you, you know, so thank you so much for watching today's cooking segment. Be sure to check out the Kidney Kitchen's website by the American Kidney Fund. It has a ton of great recipes. It has, so this is where this recipe came from. You just type in the search, Pumpkin Spice No-Bake Cheesecake, and bam, it'll pop right up. They even have a no-bake pumpkin mousse, which we did not make, but because we're making this one. It's so good. Share these recipes. Send them to your friends. Send them to your friends that don't have kidney disease. I mean, these are really tasty recipes that everybody will love, and they're all really healthy and nutritious. And just as a reminder, I've been talking about it the entire time of cooking. Read your labels. It's really, really, really important to read those labels to make sure you know what's in the ingredients. Are there any added phosphorus in there? How much is a serving? Because if a serving is, you know, just a little fraction and it's only 90 calories, then but then you might not eat just a serving. You might eat more than that. It might be more than a 90 calories or more potassium than is on here if you're eating more than the serving size. But yeah, read the label. So important. Read the label before you buy it. This is delicious. I really hope you guys enjoy making this. It's so easy and so good. Uh-oh. Have a great day. Bye.